and I'm sitting in front of a buyer and I want them to choose me to work with me. And if I was being real honest with myself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how great am I to work with?
Hey everyone, I am so excited you're here with us today with the community with eXp Realty. So excited about our content today because today we're going to be talking about something that matters more than it has for a number of years, which is winning with buyers and getting really skill-based. And we're going to be talking to somebody who is an absolute fierce expert in this department, Christine Kites out of Oregon. She's incredible, great coach, great agent, and has really a systematic mind for how to approach this type of skills-based mastery. And so I'm really, really excited by what we're covering today because the game has changed, right? Unless you're living in like some, unique area, you're probably starting to shift into a market where you're having to compete differently and show up differently than you had before. Now, if you're new, by the way, to real estate, that is now an advantage for you because you don't have all the bad habits. You don't have the like lazy market, still sitting inside your DNA where you're going, but I used to just have escrows jump into my pocket and live there, right? Instead, you're like, well, I'm just new to this. What do I need to do? That's great. So we can cover what you need to do. And then if you need a mindset reset today and how do I come back to this because you've been in the industry for 35 years, we're going to cover that today as well. So let me bring up on stage Christine Kites. How you doing today? It's really good to see you.
Good
And loving
morning.
that background, dude.
Yeah, don't you like it? I
It's
kind of grabbed
great.
it from your uh wherever I got it from your stuff. So, hello,
Heck
Lexi.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm excited to be here. I feel like this was a relevant topic to
for sure.
discuss, and anybody who came on, I felt today was probably going to be feeling it and wanted to learn more about what to work with and how to deal with finding properties and working with even getting in first position with their clients right now, and being more in a strategy base. It is still one of those times right now where we need to have skills to even just find a home with our low inventory. So
Yeah.
I really felt like this was appropriate for a discussion, let alone just insights that I can offer. So
I love it. Well, it kind of per my normal course here, I'll step back and if you need me, holler at me. If you need screen share is already turned on if you want to do any of that. And then I will tell you, for those of you who are in the audience and you're hanging out with us, especially if you're here live, you can raise your hand and ask a question. You can just unmute yourself and interrupt if you're rude like that. I'm just kidding. I love that. And but before we get started, I'm just curious, and I'm gonna launch one of these really quickly because I had this kind of ready to go. I got to find it right quick. But how many buyers did you close last 12 months? Okay, so that's in the last 12 months. How many buyers did you close? And your options here are going to be 0, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, and then 5 plus. Okay, so for those of you who maybe are newer to the industry, it's okay to be transparent on this. You're like 0 because I just got started. That's fine. But I'm curious. Let's launch this bad boy. There we go. And we're going to see what people have to say because it's always fun to see like to what extent is your business buyer based. Yep, I got a lot of people in the 1 to 3 category right now, some folks in the zeros, a bunch of folks starting to fill out the 5 plus. I know Joe Yates on there put in the chat 20. Good lord, that's some brain damage, Joe. I love it. That's great. 3 on the 1 to 3, so it kind of gives us an idea. Yeah, thanks Doug, I see that. So Christine, we can kind of see how
yeah,
things are penciling out there. Okay.
no, that's wonderful. I appreciate that poll because that's kind of what we wanted to discuss today is really where things are at. Um, I was going to go over a little bit of a quick market overview, our buyer challenges, shifting buyer mindset, smart financing strategies, offers that win, creative negotiations, speed and preparedness, off-market opportunities, and make your offer stand out. Some invisible leverage that you can use within your offers, and some bonus scripts at the end for us to roll around and see what you guys think about those. But right now, the market that we're in right now is a, what I'm experiencing is low inventory. Um, and have I done full screen on it?
I'm seeing your Canva right now and like all the,
Oh,
the design elements and stuff.
okay. Am I not
Nice.
doing it right?
Yeah, I'm on screen. I'm on slide number 3, but I can see your full screen now.
Okay, good. So, we're in tell me, in the chat, are you experiencing low inventory? I am. We have a high buyer demand. Um, we have interest rates that are still requiring buy downs. I'm still seeing low or multiple offers, and how we have to still work with a creative strategy on our offers. If that's what everybody's experiencing, that's kind of where I'm at today on this discussion. Um, so in this type of market, I feel like between all the different areas of real estate that we are as real estate brokers, this type of market is always a skill market. Working with our sellers when it's a seller's market is a little bit easier. It's a sign in the yard, multiple offers come, there's not a lot of work required in order to get those buyers to show up and get those homes sold. And even when it does take a teeny bit more time, yes, we do have some skills with that to make that happen. In this one, when you're working with the buyer, you have to have skills in your communication, skills in finding the home, skills in negotiating to get in that first position. You have to be prepared to timing wise with your inspectors, and you just have to be on it a lot more than ever when you're working in a market where you have to work for those buyers. So that's what I'm trying to help you guys level up with that. And so curious with everybody, I know he just did a poll on how many buyers have closed, but current buyers that you're working with right now, where are their mindsets for you? Are you struggling with any of these areas where your client is having a hard time being very optimistic in it? I run into that once in a while where it's like, oh, well, there's already an offer on it, or well, it's not, I guess this isn't it, or there's nothing out there, or I'm just hearing a lot of different language that's going on for me with clients, and I'm not sure if you're seeing that same thing with your clients or not. Um, with our challenges that we have, limited selections of homes, and we also run into the need to sell to buy. Um, that's pretty common in this market too. A lot of my clients, even when they're moving down and not necessarily up, or it feels like they're moving sideways, um, there's a need to sell to buy. So the creative strategies that you have to have with your your buyer who's needing to um, be in a prepared state to compete with those offers that are going on right now. That I'm seeing at least 1 to 3 when I'm making an offer for our clients, is that we are missing that opportunity because they haven't maybe been in the right position of positioning their house on the market yet, maybe not in pre-status, maybe they're in pre-status, they haven't gone live, so that they can get under contract to sit and wait for that house because they're going, oh, well, there's nothing there right now. I don't want to have a buyer yet. So maybe nothing's going to come up. And then of course I always say, well, that's how it usually is you think there's nothing going to be there. And then something happens and you're not prepared and ready. And now it's hurry, 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 go, 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 get the house on the market, those kinds of things. So I have those conversations and just had one happen yesterday like that. And I got a teasing text back to me saying, I guess this is where we hurry. And it's like, I mentioned it, so I'm giving you the options of what's likely going to happen and trying to coach them along to help them be prepared so that they can make their best offer, put their best foot forward. Um, And so, but they are feeling this pressure when they're making their offer because of their buying power. Everybody's really stretched to the max right now with the interest rates. So we're having to get those buy downs for them to really feel the right mortgage payment that's going on. Um, and that they're having to make quick decisions right now. Still, when you go and look at homes, I personally still see homes that are on the market 7 days or less. There are some out there that are a little bit longer than that, but it's the right house for most people. It's the right price. They're going off the market quickly, and I'm having to have that conversation with the clients about being prepared. Um, so with all of that, anybody want to share with me where your current challenge is? If you're writing offers right now, are you seeing any of this going on in your world right now? Does anybody want to share with me what they're currently experiencing?
And just as a reminder, you guys can unmute yourselves
Mm-hmm.
to
Or in the
answer
chat,
them
which one?
or hit
Mm-hmm.
it up in the chat. But I will
Yeah.
also mention, Christine, it's interesting because lack of inventory is definitely showing up in our
Mm-hmm.
market here. And quite frankly, this idea that of needing to sell to buy, see a lot of that, or you see people making mistakes where they get themselves out in front of that and they get themselves either under contract or something like that on the house that they really want. And now that urgency is ramped up, but the market's not moving at the velocity that they need in order to
Mm-hmm.
satisfy that. I've seen some people getting tied down into multiple mortgages, and that can obviously get squirrely. Lack of
Right.
inventory, Doug says.
Right, because currently with the one that I'm mentioning from yesterday, that's exactly what she ended up having to do. She had to look into, was she going to do a HELOC? Was she going to do a bridge loan? Or was she going to go into um, buying it with an FHA because she could, because her home really isn't on the market yet. So that was a potential benefit we actually had, is that it wasn't on the market, for the fact that she wanted to be able to put an offer in, and we knew that we could not have a contingency in order to be looked at.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense. I see Joe's
Joe,
on there. Joe Yates, what's up?
yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
Hey,
Joe.
Christine. Hey, I like,
Hi.
what you said too on the buy, the you have to sell to buy. Some of the stuff too, I'm big on the whole, I'm going to say two things here. Controlling the mindset and the client and everything else like that. But as far as that one product on the sell to buy, I did one recently where there was a couple that had to sell two properties to buy one property, and one was a little, cash only piece of junk, and the other one needed a decent amount of work, and they were both older, so it was going to be confusing, stressful, a cumbersome type transaction. And we did do the bridge loan, where the lender stepped up. Basically, they more or less buy the first house from them. They make that mortgage go away. They take the equity from that home, use that to buy the next home, and then they had no mortgage payment on their previous home for 6 months. So they had 6 months to sell without having double mortgages. Um, the key in some of these cases is just being equipped to have, with that kind of knowledge, to know that it even exists. Because you can't have a conversation with your client about, hey, potentially not having to sell before you buy and being able to work. If there's enough equity there, you can do something like this. So it's huge to know it. And you can't really count on your lender either necessarily knowing it, or your particular lender even having that product. So sometimes it's really educating yourself on the different options that are available. Or when you have something like this, a tricky type deal, reaching out to other people that do a lot of volume and saying, "Hey, let me bounce something off you." And next thing you
Um,
know, you have people saying, "Hey, you could do this." You got somebody 62 years old, that's got $250,000 and can't find a home. You could put them in a $400,000 home on a reverse mortgage purchase with no payment. How many people are doing that? None. How many people even think about it? None. So it's just, knowing some of the stuff that's available to you is just going to serve more clients and put more money in your pocket. So
Joe, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about as far as skill, right? This is requiring us to know more about the market, know more about the options for the clients. And we're not the lender, but being equipped with the knowledge of what type of loans could serve our clients and which lenders do not have those products. Just like you were saying, some lenders don't have those products. So when you have one lender you might be working with and you're just relying on the answers to that one lender and they say, oh gosh, no, there's nothing we can do. And there's only this. And then you say, oh gosh, sorry, buyer, that's all, there's nothing we can do. And you don't go and check it out. Well, why? Is there something else? Do I need to go talk to somebody else? Find that is the answer. Sometimes you just assume that is the answer also. You need to go check it out and talk around in the lending world and say, well, isn't there any other type of options? What would those options even look like if there was an option? And you end up starting learning that certain lenders just don't have those products. And you have to go talk with a different lender, even though you have a relationship with one that you've working with for years. You have to have a bigger pool of lenders so that you can say, oh gosh, this one has the right products for my client and this one I know can't. I love this person. However, the company doesn't have the product. We can't get personal about it. We have to know that we're serving the client and we need to get the right products available right now to our clients. Raymond, I see that you have your hand up. Thank you, Joe, for sharing all of that. That's exactly the direction that I was going with this later on in the slides is being that creative and understanding the loans that are available out there for our clients. Hi, Ray.
Hey, thanks. Can hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, so thanks for doing this today. It's a wealth of information here. I actually just wanted to chime in because I had this happen yesterday with a completely new client, never talked to them or met them before. That came to me off of Zillow, was like, hey, I'm looking to buy in a specific area there in Oregon, and um, I have a house in Wyoming and I need to sell my house in Wyoming before I buy a house in Oregon, but I have a hard time finding a house in Oregon. So I want to find a house in Oregon and then sell my house in Wyoming. And I'm like, okay, so there's a couple things there. And I try to be a one-stop shop for a lot of my clients where I have the lender already set up. I've got a couple attorneys on the back burner in case something goes south. So I try to make sure that I'm a one-stop shop for a lot of their needs. And then I also have I like to try to keep other agents within EXP in other states so now I can refer them out. So I've got a referral agreement already set up to represent this seller in her state in Wyoming. Already got that set up, and she's about to list her house. So at the time she's listing her house, I also have my lender working on a bridge loan for her to connect that house. So within the 6, 7 months, he's working on trying to go out of state to be able to figure out how to do all that stuff within the lending policies of his company, but it'll work. And then we're also then shifting her into getting the RMLS listings for the coast and everything else. So that is kind of how I've shifted all of my pawns in a row to, I guess, to be able to help satisfy our clients. So being able to have outsourcing other clients in other areas, finding out where they need to sell if they're not selling within Oregon, or maybe they are selling within, maybe they're on the eastern side of Oregon and you're on the west side of Oregon. So having an agent over there that you can refer to them to help them sell, and then you can help them buy, and then having your lender that knows to do those bridge loans like Joe was speaking about, to be able to facilitate that gap in between. So being a one-stop shop for your client not only proves that you are the person that they need to, rely on and trust, but it also builds that long-term connection because you're going to be helping them not only buy their home, but also help sell their home because an extension of you is that other agent that you referred them to. So that's kind of what
Excellent.
I just said.
Excellent, Ray. And yes, you're covering everything that I'm, talking about, and that's skill, right? You have skill and you're hearing, you're understanding, you're asking questions, and you're finding the solutions for everything that's going on with this particular client, and you're going outside the box for it. And making sure that you have all of the contacts that you need involved in making it happen, and then you are making sure that all those pieces are following through, and then nothing is just goes in the cracks where you can't something got lost in the cracks. So
Right. And the way I found that referral agent was just going into the workplace under that referral
mhm.
apps and just pulling up
Yeah.
an agent in that area and already pre-talking to them about the situation. So the agent was already like, okay, well, what's the address so I can pull it up? So she already pulled it up, already knew the details on the property, and they had a straight, and then I did a warm transfer. And I was like, hey, so and so, this is another agent from the other area, highly recommended, blah blah blah. So definitely, and those are agents that put themselves on there because they're used to doing these referrals,
Right. And referrals coming in or referrals going out, I will tell you that this is one of those markets too where agents are not just sending over a referral without consulting with you first to find out if you're the right fit for their client. They want to know that you're gonna do the right job because they're handing over their client to you, and it's going to be whether or not they're going to get paid or not depends upon your ability to work with their client. So they're not easily handing those over right now. They're having serious questions with you to make sure, do you have time? What's your skill base? How long have you been in the business? I've had recent conversation with, even though I was teed up and a warm referral from another agent to an agent, and he still had a laundry list of questions for me, and he was not willing to just hand anyone over to me without knowing that I was going to be the right referral partner with him. So just know that that's happening out there too. And Joe, you touched on this. You were ahead of me on this, but the mindset of what's going on right now matters to not only the buyer, but it also matters to you. You have to go into this market with the right mindset, and that helps your client with the right mindset. So you're going to be looking at the possibilities, not the limitations. You're going to have your own value to what you're presenting to your client, and you're going to provide the idea of why they're here in purchasing and conveying that in your presentation and making sure that they understand that this is definitely a path that they want to be on, and that they're prepared for the journey, that you're showing them what that journey looks like, and you're giving all the different reasons why, whether it's the cost of waiting, the solutions of helping them through, just like Ray was saying, they have to sell to buy. It's all about, again, the mindset of you and the education that you have and the skills that you have in this conversation of preparing your client for our market right now. And this is where I was going to touch on that also, where we're talking about that education with our clients. Do they understand what market that we're in? And have you set all of your expectations with them of showing the property to them, the expectation of how many properties will likely come available? And have you gone through your presentation? We obviously are in a day and age now where that presentation is everything in getting a buyer broker agreement signed. And so is it clear, ready? Is the preparedness that you need to be at in working on your business for the market that we have right now is so imperative for you to have somebody sign a buyer broker agreement with you, and know how to convey everything to them, and have all the documents. Sometimes we have documents prepared in the system. Once we have a buyer broker agreement signed, we're already ready in the system with generally what that offer is going to look like with some of those key pieces in there. We've already talked to them about the inspections. We've already talked to them about home warranties. We already know the general price range that they're going to be in. We know what type of property it's going to be. So we know whether a lead-based paint's going to be involved or a well and septic. There's a lot of preparedness that you could be, because when we do need to write that offer while we're waiting for that one to come available, and it feels like it's never going to be there, and then it does, and now it's hurry up and write the offer and hurry up and get it in because we want to be the first ones in. And that is still important these days, is getting that offer in as quickly as possible. The sellers are seeing that, that when they see, even if they're looking at 3 offers, they want to know which one came in first. They want to see which one has the most interest in their home. Did it come with that love letter? Those kinds of things. So the speed to taking action is still important in getting in that first position. And then of course we have to find that home. So with this low inventory, um, what are you doing to help find this house? Are you sitting back and just sending the email notifications to them and waiting for them to send an email back to you or text you and say, I saw this one today? Or you're sending them the emails and they still send you Zillow links because they're still looking on Zillow. They're not even paying attention to your emails that are coming through. And are you looking every day at those coming soon properties, those pre-status? Are you calling those agents? Are you going out on broker tour like here Wednesday today? I'll be out on broker tour this afternoon looking at the inventory. You never know when you're actually going to see a house and you're going to find the house before the buyer. And then you find the buyer and you say, I just saw that house yesterday. It's perfect for you. All of these types of things of finding that property. So the for sale by owners, they still exist out there. So you have to find those before your clients do on Zillow. There are expired listings that didn't sell a year or two ago that you could be looking at, seeing if they're interested in going back on market. You could do a social media outreach. I have a buyer looking for. And then there's also the mailing. And that's something that I've done over years, where when we've gotten into a market like this, where we have low inventory, I know the demographics of what my client's looking for, and I'm able to pin it down. I do a mailing out to that specific home base, whatever that looks like. And I handwrite a letter specifically to them with a handwritten envelope so it doesn't look like it's a mass mail. Because I'm sincerely trying to find a home for my buyer. If in the event I end up with a seller along the way, that's wonderful too. But my intention is truly an intention of finding a home for my client. And I have done that plenty of times where I have actually had the calls back saying, you called, but I don't know if you're really serious. Is this a real mailer or not? Do you really have a buyer for my home? And I say, absolutely. I have a buyer that's looking for a home. Your home fits some basic criteria. Is it okay if we come over and take a look at it? Well, me come over and take a look at it and see if it might be a good fit. I've gotten sellers over that. I've gotten the right home for my buyers over that. But we have to be looking at, again, as I'm talking here, skill. What are your skills of working with you as a buyer's agent opposed to the next one? Because you're having to provide that value when you sit down with them with your presentation of why they're working with you against another buyer's agent that they see at the open house. What are you doing different? Are you just, again, sending an email, having the first initial conversation? We work really great together, but are you doing anything to help find that house? I see, Ray, your hand's up again, and I'm happy to chat. What you got?
Sorry, I just thought it was kind of valuable because it is what I do and it works. I get listings from it by helping my buyers. And so what I do is I make sure I point in the right direction of the home that I sold, obviously, because I messed up my first time I did this. I pointed in the wrong direction. I was like, I sold that house right over there, and it was actually over there. And they knew what house had recently sold because they saw my picture with my sign out in front of the yard. And they're like, you sold it over there, not over there. And so I said, okay, well, I sold it over there. But anyways, I have a buyer that's looking for a home that might meet your criteria. Can you please tell me more about your home? And so and I do that by door knocking in the areas that I have recently sold. So just wanted to throw that out there and maybe help some other agents get some more listings.
Absolutely. Door knocking. There's also the open houses. So if you're having the opportunity to do open houses, you should be walking that neighborhood and at least letting them know and inviting them to the open house. I know of lots of different agents I've had conversations with on other teams and other agents out there that have told me, yes, they had an open house, they walked a neighborhood, they got another seller off of it by just walking the neighborhood. And they've also had clients that have come into that open house that intend to sell, and that home ended up being the one that their buyer was looking for. So it's just a matter of plugging in, and how are you plugging in to your real estate world of your business? Are you working in the business at all and on the business in trying to help your client find that house? So because first you have to find the home before we sit back and worry about how we're going to negotiate with that listing agent and that particular property, because every property is going to be different. some general parameters about the offer process, but we have to find the house. Right now, that's what I'm seeing is the concern. We have clients that are still looking. I mean, this is still something that we're struggling with as a team with clients that have been looking over the past year. And once that home comes up, they're not looking for the unicorn. When that home does show up in the marketplace, we're not the only ones at the door. We are in multiple offers because everybody's been waiting for that house to come on the market. So we have to be more proactive. We have to figure out how to find that house before it comes on the market because we're going to be in multiple offers. So just get more creative about how you're trying to help your clients find this house. Go to your title company and get a list of homes. Your representative would be glad to meet with you to go into their system and use the system that they have for you to figure out how to narrow that down and give you a list to go write these letters for. And they're happy to do it for you. They narrow things down with different demographics in there about what you're looking for, what parts of town. If you're looking for a specific age group, you're looking for a specific neighborhood, you're looking for a one level, you're looking for certain criteria, you can find that. You can generalize what that home price might be and market value in our market right now and send off those letters. It's doing the work. It's taking the time and stepping up for your client. If you're interested in helping them find a home, take more steps to try to help them find that house. Then Joe, like Joe was saying, we need some strategies here though too. When we're working with our clients, we need to know who they're qualified with, what their options are, what type of loan that they're getting. Is it the best loan that they can get? Are they a first-time home buyer? Do we need a local grant because they don't have the money? Do they need a rate buy down in order to get some more buying power? We're at a threshold where our market is not producing the home at the right price because they're too low in their price point, and we need to try to help that buying power move. And then, of course, there's a 1031 exchange, and I want to definitely throw that in here because I'm not sure if anybody really knows enough about 1031 exchanges to know when to recognize the conversation that's happening or to ask the right questions to learn a little bit more that you have a 1031 exchange candidate. And Joe touched on reverse mortgages. And then I've also seen recently someone who has too much money and they need to spread out their the 1031 exchange process, and there's lots of different ways that they can maneuver their money. So do you have an equity advisor that you can talk with, that you ask questions to? I do. He's amazing, and I just text him all the time. Hey, they told me da 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 da. What do you think of that? And I'm not necessarily the expert in it. I rely on an expert, and he has a conversation with my client to help figure out the best strategy with their equity when I know there's some type of 1031 exchange or some type of equity situation that we need to figure out, and it's not just a standard sell to buy. So do you know somebody locally or somebody who's in the Portland area? That's where he was. And he services 5 different states. And just a wealth of knowledge. I usually have him here once a year doing training. So if you need a contact, let me know. I'm happy to share him with you.
Hey, Christine, I love that you bring this up because it's one of those key points where whether you're doing a 1031 or Joe just pointed out doing a reverse 1031 where you buy before selling, like there's all these different types of options. And I think sometimes the fear point for agents is like, I need to know everything. And I love that the way that you just said that is like, you don't need to know everything. You just need to know someone who does. And so in every category, right? And so if you don't know 1031s, that's fine. Get a good, QI, get a good qualified intermediary, get a good person who knows this space and they operate in that space usually for a fee, but that fee comes off the deal. And those people are great trusted advisors. But go every single category through your business. You don't need to become an expert at everything. And I love that you just said that you just call them up. Hey, what do I do? Or text, hey, what do I do on this? I have tons of those people in my world, right? I don't want to know everything. Dang, dude, like if you think you know everything, that means you're on the hook for the liability behind that. Just ask a question to somebody who's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, manufactured the factory, whatever, right? And then just ask the question so that they can guide you. And I think that's so smart that you're doing it that way.
Well, yeah, and when you're so I just recently had an unfortunate situation where, an agent didn't know. And so the seller um sold their home and was worth their tax professional to find out that they should have done a 1031 exchange, and it was too late. They had already so anything about if you know anything about 1031 exchanges, you have to know that before you close and receive the money. You can be at the closing table signing and go, oh, I needed to do a 1031 exchange. As long as it's not recorded and you didn't get the money, you can get the paperwork going and get a 1031 done still before you close on that property. And unfortunately, it was afterwards. And so I did set her up in communication with him because he did still give her some strategies still for the next year. So the other idea with it is that if you have an equity advisor, they are going to help. They know more than you, and they're going to know more about how they're going to ask all the right questions to know a little bit more about their situation, and they're going to guide them with what they should be doing and what makes most sense for them. And that may mean that you're waiting a couple of years until they're ready to sell their property. But as long as you're the one who set them up with the right person to save them money in the long run to do the right thing with their equity, then you are the one they're going to want to work with and want to send everybody to. The idea here is to help your client with their personal situation the best you can, and put them in contact with the people that can also help with their equity and or soon purchase. So Joe, what's your experience on 1031 exchange? Because we touched on that in the reverse exchange. So,
Well, 1031's got to be about the one of the most fun clients there are, uh,
mhm.
because they're on a timeline. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I love 1031s. They're easy. They're on, it's just, it doesn't add anything really additional to the whole mix. And I did do a reverse 1031, which was, really cool. We'd identified a property and not, I learned about it because we were identifying a property and we thought we were in a crunch as far as having to hurry up and get their property sold. Contact, his 1031 rep, and they said, no, we can close on this one first. And I went, okay, that's pretty good. So a lot of people don't realize that you can start shopping prior to, and if you think about it, one of the things too is people are going, I got to sell this, but then I got to be able to find something that I'm going to roll it into. And is there something that I'm going to be, happy with? So it's basically like that same bridge loan scenario we were talking about with a buy sell. It's a 1031 buy sell type deal to where you're trying to do two things at once, and you can go ahead and ensure that you have the prize at the end prior to doing the sell at the beginning. So it's cool. One thing I wanted to touch on, where everything that we're talking about is like offers, programs, and pricing, you know, uh, strategy and having the right products, and which for some people could sit there and go, dude, these guys are talking about these products or some of this stuff that I have no idea what it is. It could seem overwhelming. So to, what you were saying and what Jeff was saying, reach out to other people, get other people involved. You don't have to know everything. I'm 900 years old. That's the reason I know, some of the crap I know is because I've been doing it for so damn long. So it's just,
You're not that old.
I'd rather be young and not know some of these products. So, go ahead and reach out to any of us, and just say, hey, I got this situation. But one of the things that before you even get to the point of where you're writing offers and in multiple offer situations and all this kind of stuff, is making sure. I'm still hearing people saying, well, my clients don't want to do anything because of the stock market. What are the tariffs going to do? Shut the hell up. Okay, that's my answer to that. It's just you need to make sure that you're confident in yourself. My background's blurred out, but behind me it says there's no confidence has no competition. That's the biggest thing you got to do, because you need to be making sure that you're convinced that it's a good time for them to buy, and then you're able to convey that message to them. The stock market is fine. So what I handle most of my objections up front. So before they start objecting, I set the tone and I just say, hey, just so you know, really quick, the market's hotter than it's been for the last 3 months. The market's hotter than it's been the last 2 years. So 2023 sucked, 2024 sucked. We're on fire right now. So you've got a window of opportunity right now, this snapshot that looks really good. And trust me, you don't want rates to go down. Because if rates go down, the floodgates are open, prices are up, competition's through the roof, and that's not going to be any fun. So hopefully we can find something really quick. And that's the way I set things up. So I didn't give them an opportunity to talk to me about rates, about the market, about this or about that. I just answered all of that before they got a chance to get going. Now that we've set the stage, that's what I call create your own momentum. I've already set the stage for, what the market looks like, what the speed to, is going to look like. And now when we start getting into some of these other things, they already know that there's a sense of urgency built in. Everybody else is buying, I should be buying too. So I think that one of the things that we have to do as agents before we can even get into trying to pick the right product or write a strong offer is making sure that we have this thing correct, so that our words are correct, so that the client's going to be on board with what we're trying to get them to do.
I appreciate that. The confidence level is absolutely key. And that's kind of where the mindset is about where you're at in the market and how you're relaying that to your clients. And time is of the essence for your buyers. Just like he's saying, interest rates, we don't have control over that. What we do have, though, is a season that's going on right now in our market. And this is the market where things start picking up. So as a buyer, and, time is of the essence for us to find the property as soon as possible so that we can negotiate the best price and the best terms right now. Because as we move forward and more homes do come on the market and they start selling and they start selling for more and more and more, this is the usual time that our prices usually start climbing a little bit. So if they're at that level where they're maxing out at where they're at and there's very few homes right now, we have to find that home as quickly as possible, because they're going to go up and they're going to be out of the market once we get into summer. So that's the other thing too, is why you are so important to them finding this home right now at this time. And with the motivation and the confidence that you have to make that happen, you've got to do that now. We can't wait until summer. They may be out of the market in summer. We don't have control over that. However, we do see that when there's 1 to 3 offers that are coming in, things are selling at or above asking. That means the next house that comes available is going to be at that level or above. And we're going to move like that through summer. That's the usual way that things are going to go. So you want to find your buyer a home as quickly as possible.
Well,
And
you said it perfectly there. And I just want to say one more thing real quick on that, is that
yeah,
it is our responsibility to be good enough. Did a little video on this the other day, but it's our responsibility to be good enough to get the buyer to pull the trigger on what it is they should be buying right now. And that's not tricking them into buying a house right now, pressuring them into buying a house right now, or anything else like that. If my client doesn't buy a house right now because of the fact that I wasn't strong enough or convicted enough or skilled enough to convey to them that time is of the essence, then that's on me. It's my damn fault if they don't end up owning a home down the road. It's my job to make sure that they end up. And I'll even tell a client if it's tough, if there's multiples, or if I think there's going to be multiple, I'll just say, hey, my job's not to save you $5,000. My job is to make sure that you and your family end up in a home you want to be in for a long time. So I suggest we don't get cute and you write a strong offer. That's taking charge of the situation. I tell my clients, if you miss out, I want it to be your fault, not mine. Is that fair? So, but I have to keep that in my own head too. If my client misses out, I want it to be their fault, not mine. And if they end up not being able to buy a home because Joe Yates wasn't good enough to tell them that it was time to buy in April of 2025, shame on me. So I need to make sure that I'm convinced this is a good time to buy and be able to convey that message to my client. So
absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. That's definitely how we go about things with our clients, is like, I'm going to do everything that I can and learn everything I possibly can to deliver the right information to you to make your strongest offer to get you into first position. You're just going to have to be the one to agree with and or be okay with the information in order to make that strong offer. Ultimately, it's up to you, but I'm going to deliver everything that I can to know that I can get you into first position. And that's my job, is to make sure that I can give you your tools and strategies on your offer to get there. You have to be the one to say, yes, I'm willing to do that, and to sign it and to move forward. But it's not my fault, like you're saying, Joe, that they didn't get first position. I gave you all of the tools to make that happen. And that's my job, is to try to get you there. So, and discussing that, the myth of highest price wins. The price does matter. It's not everything. There's obviously other factors in making the offer, finding out what is important to the seller, and the personal attachment they might have to the house. And so you want to build a strong offer and not just an expensive one. So that's the strategy that Joe's even talking about right here. Is it's not about that 5,000. It's about, did you structure an offer that was going to win with the seller, for them to want to accept your offer? It's not always price. So you want to make your offer stand out. And, I'm going to go over just some basics here of what I feel that everybody probably knows. However, let's talk about them really quick. Strong earnest money. That's still a thing. When a seller is looking at offer to offer and they look at that number, it makes a difference when they have three that they're looking at, and one's 1,000 and one's 4,000. We have shorter inspection contingencies, flexible closing dates, possibly appraisal waivers that are still happening today, and or ordering the appraisal promptly instead of waiting to the end of the inspection period. The love letter, that personal letter to the seller, I've seen that work very well. I usually ask to confirm that this might be something of interest to the seller without just assuming that. When I get the other idea here is that we get the buy-in from the listing agent through that conversation, that they want to help you learn what it is that would be helpful for your offer. And will this make any difference in preparing it, or is it everything? And then, of course, the offer as is with just minor allowances, meaning, you're just going to do inspections for just informational purposes, or if there was only important things to discuss for the property condition. I also have appraisal gap coverage. That's been a thing in the last few years, is using that language in there. I'm not sure how many people here have used that. I know I've had to. A larger down payment, using a local lender who's, quick and trusted in the area. Obviously, that's important to have the right partner. And then a quick close with a rent back option to the seller could also be a good structure for you on your offer, because maybe they need that money to purchase that replacement property, and the sooner that they have that money available, they can do that. So maybe giving them a little bit of time after closing. And then those timelines, the contingencies, just really tighten them up. This is where I'm saying skill and you as a professional, you being so skilled with your offer that you know that you already have your inspector. When you're looking at the property and your client says, this is the one, I love this house, and you're making an offer that night, are you texting your inspector right at that moment saying, what's your next available? That's what I do. What's your next available? So great, pencil me in. When I'm making that offer, it's going to say, here's the offer, and I also have the inspection scheduled for Wednesday at 5. Of course, if it works. However, the idea is you're showing this listing agent how skilled, confident you're going to make this transaction easy, smooth. You got it down. You know what you're doing. Is absolutely the idea of how you present this offer is showing that agent how to expect it to go all the way. And you want to influence this listing agent to work with you. How can you do that? By doing all of these extra steps. You also get in touch with your lender immediately. When we're at the property, I'm texting him saying, him or her, we love this home. Send the link of the property. please work up some numbers immediately on this. I'm writing an offer this evening. I already know what those are. The minute I get there, I'll have the pre-approval on my email when I arrive. So there was the speed, preparedness with documentation, all that kind of stuff. How quick and how are you doing all of these things to make this offer look the best when you have it come over? Those are all the types of things I do. So there's these invisible leverage things that I feel exist too. So turning my listing agent into an ally. I'm always in great communication with these agents. I'm always, anytime that I show a property, I don't know if it's going to be the house that they're going to want. So I do this every single time. I'm communicating well on the front going into the house. When I'm leaving, I'm texting and letting them know it's all locked up. It's great. You know, the door's locked, lights are off. Sometimes they're communicating with me. Oh gosh, can you leave this light on? Can you do this? Make sure you don't let the cat out. No problem. I'm communicating the whole time, even if I'm not writing an offer yet. I'm already prepping this agent that I'm an awesome agent to work with, and I'm great at communication. I'm also caring about their seller already before I'm made an offer. So quick professional responses. And then, of course, you're showing the strength of your client with an offer that's financially solid, it's flexible, you're easy to work with. You want to solve problems. You want to ask what the seller wants behind the price. And you want to be confident in the closing. And so you want to highlight your track record of smooth transactions and communication. I do that kind of thing working with agents. You know, we're going to make this a smooth transaction. This is how I work. How do I communicate with you? What's best? I'll ask questions about the agent if I don't know already, about what's the best way to communicate with them. How can I reach them? How do you want me to present this to you? How do you want me to get this to you? How do you want this? The constant communication and understanding the communication style that the agent is that you're working with is so important for your offer to look good too, because you're speaking their language. And that just comes down to this whole learning it, or you can know it without asking, which is sometimes the disc profile, which I'm very fond of. And sometimes I just know, and I can tell based on the style of that agent who I'm working with, and I can just verify and confirm how it is that they want. I'm sure you're going to want it like this or like that. So that invisible leverage, though, just really comes into how you're communicating as an agent and your rapport and everything that you line up prior to even writing that offer, because then the offer comes next. I wanted to share with you my real world feedback. She told me on the phone all of this, and she said, I'm going to make sure that I write this in the email. I want your clients to know how much I appreciate everything about how you've been in your communication and how you've been working to try to get your clients into first position. I want them to know how good you are. So she wrote this in the email. She told me more on the phone, but I was able to convey this then to my clients. Because your offer was complete, it included the contingency. I can't tell you how many times as a listing agent, I will see an offer come over knowing that I state that it's subject to identifying a replacement property and subject to a replacement property. You know, I guess it's them just trying to slide by and not put it in there, but they won't have it in there. You've been excellent communicator and advocator for your clients, and that is what pushed them to counter yours instead of another, and we had a total of 4 offers. She said, you weren't the best. However, you made it all happen, and you were the reason why we wanted to work with your client. So you have to also remember that your offer can look maybe not as impressive as it should. Maybe your client can't do that extra 1,000, 5,000, whatever that looks like, but how you have showed up for your client and the whole way could mean everything on getting in an accepted position. And I know that Casey is here today, and she is my sister and associate. I can't tell you how many times she has told me that because of her communication, she has gotten into first position because the agent wants to work with her. And not, knowing the other offers in front of them and the other agents that are associated with those offers, she hears that very commonly. I mean, so commonly almost every time. Oh my gosh, I love working with you. Be the person they want to work with, even if your client is not able to show up the way you would love them to show up on that offer, but they just can't. Well, then it could come down to you. So I wanted to share that with you. That's a key piece. I also have some great scripts that I wanted to share. So Joe started talking about this, about preparing his buyer before you're out showing property. However, this market is fast and competitive. Doesn't mean you need to overpay. What you need to do is make sure you have the strongest, cleanest possible offer, being flexible on terms, closing date, earnest money, contingency timelines, inspections completed promptly, timing of appraisal, negotiations and conditions. Guide you through those options and make sure you stand out without going beyond your comfort zone. So this is where you as an agent prepare them for what you're going to do, get them on board with how you're going to work for them, have them in agreement of how you work, and then know that you've done everything you can to get them in the right position in that offer. And of course, asking the listing agent. There's lots of different ways that you can have this conversation. This is just a simple piece of that conversation. What's most important to that seller? Hi, Joe. Thank you for your time. The buyers are serious and flexible. What can we do to make this the smoothest transaction possible for your seller? Simple, quick, depending upon who you're talking to, depends upon if you want a lengthier one or a quick, short, simple one. Again, knowing your agents is a good thing. Know how they communicate. To find out what you can, if you can. Sometimes we can't find out this information, but if they're willing to share, definitely ask. The worst they can do is not tell you anything, or they share something with you that's going to help you with the offer writing process where you've learned some key piece that could set you apart from that other offer or offers that you might be competing with. And so this would be the, little bit longer version of that. And this is the expression of they love this house. Sometimes we really need those agents to know that they fell in love with it. Sometimes we're working with sellers that have a very strong personal attachment to their home. Again, before you write the offer, before you have the love letter, all of this communication comes through. Those agents are listening. They're listening to you. They're hearing how you're communicating. They're hearing what you say about your client. I know I do as a listing agent. When I have 4 offers that have come through in my house and a couple agents just sent over an offer and I have no communication with them, they didn't ask me one question. They don't know anything about my seller. They don't know what's important. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know if their client loves it or how long they've been looking. I don't know anything to share with my client. So when I have 4 offers sitting there and I said, well, I know this one and we're all similar. Okay. Because that's the other thing is sometimes you're neck and neck with these. So they're similar. And I'm like, well, I know this one told me X. This one I haven't heard from, and this one I know X also. And that sometimes plays a role in that decision point for a seller. So what are you doing to convey to that agent, even if it's not on a love letter? The minute you're at the house, you've left the house, you're communicating before you make the offer, after you make the offer, all of those key stepping points, and learning what you can about structuring that offer. So you can go to your client, just as Joe said, I'm going to set you up for success. I'm going to learn everything I possibly can so that you can make your best offer. So this is what I've learned. This is what I do know. This is what they can tell me. So based on this information, this is my suggestion. Are you comfortable with that? Or what are you thinking? And you get that down on paper and then you present that over along with now all the great communication that you've done, all the learning that you've done, and then their love letter if there's one, if there's time for it. On top of it would be your lender. So the other piece of this is how strong are your clients? You want to convey that to the agent. You do have a pre-approval letter that should be coming along with that offer. However, are you relaying to the agent ahead of time who you're working with, how well known they are, how long you've been working with them? Maybe they know them. So you're like, well, so and so. Oh, yeah, we love working with her, him. And they're ready to close quickly. They already have, they're already underwritten. They're already here. They're already there. You're already conveying that. And you can reach out to the lender with any questions that you have to confirm their strength and qualification. What I do find is that the lenders who contact the agents, when I have a buyer or Casey has a buyer or anybody on my team has a buyer, and we've written an offer and our lender calls behind that, commonly I hear agents say, oh, why your lender called and lenders never call and say anything. I don't know why that's not common practice for them. However, that alone can set you apart in your offer process. So having your lender understand that's an expectation for you when you write an offer, that you can tee them up for that conversation, and that this is the agent, we wrote the offer, it's off to them. I let them know who you are and that they could reach you for any questions. However, please do that phone call that we talked about and reach out to them. Even if they leave a message and don't talk with the agent directly, the agent is there, absolutely appreciative that they heard. And again, they now have that knowledge to relay when presenting your offer. They're now equipped with it. Well, their lender called me and told me X, X, and X. So key. So to recap, everything that we were working on today was finding your clients a home, which is key. However, preparing them for the offer and the market, your standout strategies, and that is not just about money, building relationship with that listing agent, so that you can influence that outcome, and structure the offer that solves problems and not just meet price. And so I'd like to open it up for some Q&A here and or stories, because stories are always helpful here for agents to know what has happened and what has worked. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to questions or anything to share?
I really love this, Christine. I mean, what great value for people to see how to navigate some of this stuff right now, because the truth is, I think for a lot of people who are out there, they're running into all these challenges that you've identified so well today and going, I don't know what to do with this because I haven't been running into this in a previous market, right? And so if you're newer to the space, or even if you've been in the industry for a long time, this could be creating a lot of stress. I see that Joe has his hand up. What's up, Joe?
Yeah, me again. No, hey, back to just trying to make. I just want to give a quick little story real fast. I got a call the weekend before last on Saturday afternoon, and gal gets a hold of me asking. It was a Google call, and she was looking for a rental. And I went, yeah, I don't do rentals. And she goes, okay, I wasn't sure. And this is the size of town and everything. I went, okay, yeah, thanks. And I gave her the name of a couple of property management companies. And then my brain actually turned on. And I said, what are you doing exactly? What's looking for a rental? And she goes, well, my husband lives outside the area. He's in the military, so we want to rent right now. We don't want to have repairs come up and that type of thing while he's not at the house. And I said, it makes perfectly good sense. I said, though, with a modest appreciation of just 3% a year, if you buy a $400,000 house, I go at the end of 2 years, you got $24,000 sitting there. That's going to more than cover sending the plumber out once and maybe an HVAC guy. And she goes, yeah, you're probably right, and she gets off the phone. I gave her my regular number instead of my Google number just in case. She texts back a half hour later and says, we're interested in buying. That was a Saturday afternoon. Tuesday, they were in contract. So it's home inspections tomorrow. It's taking, something that's just, somebody getting renter information and then just taking it a little bit further, trying to figure out, what their real long needs are and what they're trying to accomplish. And then, picking up your, $10,000, $12,000 check in a couple, a month down the road. So we need to keep our minds open. We need to be listening to the client. We need to be solving problems. And
right. We can't easily close down the conversation the minute we hear something. We need to be more interested in knowing more. We need to have a mindset of let me know more about your situation to see what I can do. and to know that it's definitely not, and maybe it's not right now, Joe, just like you were saying, it just happened to be a right now. Maybe it was a 6 months though. Maybe it was a 1 year. How long were they going to be in that rental? You didn't know that unless you had that conversation. So the initial, I'm looking for a rental, but you don't know how long they're going to be in it, why they're going to be in it. So having and be prepared for an open mind of, oh, tell me more about that situation so I can understand where and why you're going there. And then you can see whether or not you're going to stay in contact with that person and they're staying in the area and they need to buy, or if it was a short-term situation and they weren't ever planning on purchasing. But taking that extra step to have not shutting it down the minute you hear something. You have to be ready and open-minded to know you don't know that the assuming mindset of what we have. And I wanted to make sure that I touched on this when we were in here, and it made me think about it. However, has everybody done the Fair Haven 2.0 yet? That is the national challenge.
Yes.
Okay, I completed it. It was amazing to do because I've obviously done it before. However, it's 2.0. So it had more information this time, even though there were things that I'd already seen and learned before. Still so interesting to go through, and the different scenarios of what happens with situations where you're mind blown. Like, I can't even believe I would ever do anything like that. And then there was the last part that talked about the bias. And that's where I thought, oh, I think that's where most good-hearted, good agents could catch themselves, because we're always trying to make sure that we know our clients so well, and we know what they want and what they don't want, where they want to be and where they don't want to be, that you can almost start speaking for them or assuming for them. And knowing that they will or will not like something, you can end up in a situation where you've steered them a different direction that they should have gone. And you have to remember that it's still their decision, no matter what they're doing, what they're looking at. They could have told you all the different things of where, why, when, why they want this and what they don't want. And they can still change their mind when you show them a house and, well, you said you didn't want this or you wanted that. Well, you automatically saying, well, you not telling them, well, you told me you didn't want this. And so you just immediately eliminate it from the list. You have to have that conversation and say, well, I remember you telling me that you wanted to make sure that it had this or it didn't have this. And on this list, I see you have this property, and let's talk about it for a minute. You had mentioned this. Is there a reason why you've chosen this one on the list? Well, I know that I said that. However, I like this about it, and that's what's so important to me. So you have to remember that you really don't know until they've made a decision on the house. We're going to do our best to try to help them find what they're looking for, but you have to be careful about now assuming that you know what they want and what they don't want, and making those decisions for them. So I don't know, I took that away on it, but it was really, really interesting to do. If you haven't done it, I don't know if Jeff put the link in here or not. You're always so fast about doing that. However, if you need the link, the challenge deadline is the 30th of this month. And there is a link of where you go and you report that you've completed it. And it's a state to state challenge. So this is an Oregon state challenge. This is not a brokerage challenge. This is a state challenge. There it is. Please do it. And at the end, it'll give you the link of where you need to show that you have completed it, and you completed in the state of Oregon. I would love, who has done it? Who on here has done it? Anyone? Jeff, I saw Jeff. Anybody else? It's on my calendar, Stephanie said.
Yeah.
Lexi said yes.
Just knocked it out recently. Yeah, I know that Lexi did it too. It's interesting. It's very, it's actually quite dynamic the way that they've set it up.
Almost done. Never heard of it. Amy. Well, here's the link.
Oh, good golly, Miss Molly. Log into your NAR account. It's right on the first page. And what you'll notice if you log into your NAR account, oh, sorry, I'm not on screen. If you log into your NAR account, there's two things that you have to get done on there. One is that you have to get your ethics, right, which is every however many years, and the other one is Fairhaven, which satisfies these other requirements. But it's actually a worthy little project, and I would say go through it. You can get it knocked out in a few hours in one afternoon. Like, it doesn't have to take you the rest of your life. If you're kind of focused.
The Fairhaven one was, I mean, I think that it's a 2 hour. It took me, and because you can only, get through what they allow you to get through, I felt like it was an hour and 30 and I was done with it. But it's so interesting the way that they have it set up, just like Jeff was saying, going through it. It was informational, it was educational. You heard real studies. People, they literally had clips of people who went through the situation, exactly what had happened to them. Um, it's really interesting to put it in true perspective and not just look on paper or do a continuing education online about just what the document says that you should and shouldn't do. Going through real life scenarios with people, and also having a little bit of that education piece, bringing us back to what was and what isn't anymore, and why we still see some of that stuff in our CC&Rs and our restrictions. I see it every once in a while. It's crazy to even read. So please take time to do that. The 30th is, you've got time. So, any other stories, questions? I didn't know if I saw any other hands up. Don't be shy.
I love it. There's so many great takeaways from this. And I would say this. One of the things that I keep hearing, and it's consistent from top leaders, is that this idea that skills are what differentiate you in a market like the one that we're in, right? We're seeing some agent attrition, agents saying, I don't know how to hack this. I remember when I used to just, money fell into my pocket by having a real estate license, and it's no longer that, right? Maybe those days will come again, by the way, just so everyone knows. It doesn't all stay bad forever. If no one's read like the history books, back in 2008, 2009, people were like jumping off bridges because of real estate stress. And so we're going to come back into a great market. But in the meantime, in the time between now and whenever that is, you got to gain skills. And here's the beautiful thing. Those skills will be such a differentiator when the markets come back for you. So while everyone might feel a little stressed, like, do I really have to gain all these proficiencies and learn about 1031s and qualified intermediaries and do all this stuff and call my leaders like Christine and ask questions, right? The answer is yeah, do it, right? Because when the market comes back, that will compound and exponentially put you above your competitors. And I'm talking even just the people who figured out how to hang in there. They lived on cat food and out of the backseat of their car or whatever they did through the down market. I'm just telling you, you need to be able to take a look at what's going on now and say, how does this empower me moving forward? And I feel like that's a lot of what we've covered today. Is that right, Christine?
That's right. You need to work in your business and on your business and who you are in the field of real estate. Are you going to be an excellent real estate broker? I mean, where do you rate yourself right now? If you really put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, and you said, if I'm going to be real honest with myself, and I'm sitting in front of a buyer and I want them to choose me to work with me, and if I was being real honest with myself on a scale of 1 to 10, how great am I to work with? What are the skills and what are the value adds that I have of why I'm the best real estate broker for them to say, yes, I want you to go help me find a home? And you have to get real with yourself to understand that there are others out there that can do probably better than you. Are you as good as what you can be? I'm not going to say as others, but are you showing up in your world of being a real estate broker for your clients? Can you say to them, I go on broker tour every Wednesday. I'm not sure if broker tours in your areas. Open houses. Are you regular with open houses? Are you walking neighborhoods? Are you at real estate meetings? Are you within the market? Are you meeting with lenders? Do you know the lender options that are going on out there right now? Not that you are a lender. Are you familiar with the products though? Are you familiar with what's going to help them? Or do you know 1031 exchange? There's so many different things that you should be educated on, at least to know enough to know how to have the conversation, lead them to the right person, and structure that offer correctly for them and know all of the different key people that are going to play a role within that transaction. And the other thing that I would say is, do you have a relationship with appraisers that are out there? Do you know how they are working right now? Do you know how they are appraising things? Do you wonder if it's going to appraise when you make an offer on something? There's so many different things that you can learn about, be a part of, show up locally in your area, be a part of those meetings, the association meetings, any meetings that title companies are putting on. They're always relevant. They're always relevant to what's going on right now, whether they have the attorney showing up to talk about X or it's the buyer broker agreements. Show up in your real estate world so that you can say and be confident when you show up to your client and say, why work with me? You have a presentation to show them. And within that presentation, are you sharing some real life scenarios and stories of why it's great to work with you because of experience that you've had? Do you have rapport with agents that are out there? Agents definitely want to see you showing up to their broker tours. They do take note to that too. Who's around looking at the inventory that's out there? And when you write an offer on their home, they're going to be like, huh, I've been seeing her card lately at my tours. Are you going out and even trying to preview anything that's come on the market? Maybe you don't have a client yet, but the properties are on open house over the weekend. The reason why I tour those properties because it's my way of touring inventory without having to make an appointment with the sellers. So are you that into your market area? Do you know your market area also? Do you know every piece of the town, the different neighborhoods? Are you familiar enough with them to know what they're going to offer your clients? Not so that you can steer them in any direction, but are you familiar when they say, I'm looking for, and I like the parks and I want to be close to this. I want to be near town now. I want to be this. I want to be that. Are you familiar with those areas that they're probably going to tell you they're going to like? Oh, so that means you probably are going to like this area of town. Is this going to be close enough for you? You're able to narrow things around and talk about those areas. I know this section kind of leans towards having 4 parks right here. So are you familiar enough to have the conversation? Do you know your area? Are you familiar with your market? Do you know how the values are in certain neighborhoods right now? Have you been watching the MLS to see what's going off the market quickly, and are they selling at price or not? Are they selling above? Are you there to answer the questions? We're like, well, I've seen that house has been on the market for 30 days. I don't know what's wrong with it. Well, yeah, I've already seen it, and what was wrong is because there was this or that was going on with it, or it's back on market.
Yeah, I love this. And you know what you make me think, Christine, is like, as those of you who are listening right now, you have to be going, wow, that's so many things to be considering. But this is what we're talking about with skills. Because here's something that's interesting. If you don't know this stuff, you don't even know that you don't know it, right? Like how many people learned the word 1031 today? Maybe somebody on this call, right? Like, and if that was you, hallelujah. Here's why. Before today, you couldn't ask questions about that thing because it was a literal blind spot, right? That's like you saying, what color is the car that's in the blind spot that's driving right behind me on the right-hand side? You don't know because you didn't even know there was a car there, right? And so ultimately, it's impossible for you to gain proficiency in categories that you're not even aware of. And so awareness is the first breakthrough moment where you say, oh, I should be maybe learning different strategies to get offers accepted. I remember when I was in my first year of real estate, Christine, and I met this other powerhouse woman in my market. And she said to me, she goes, I have 18 ways, and she was very confident on this. I have 18 ways that I can help a buyer get their offer accepted. And I was thinking in my mind, I was like, I have like 2, right? It's like literally, that was like, it was it. And I'm like, what the heck are your 18? And so what did I do over time? I mean, I took her out to lunch and we chatted it up and I tried to learn and all the things. But ultimately, when she said that, what I realized is it doesn't matter how great I am. If I don't even know what I'm missing, then I can't be great at that thing. Right? Like if I didn't know that people go to the gym and do, compound sets for weights, then I don't know that that's a great strategy to gain overall strength and leanness and all the other stuff, right? I don't know that because I don't know about it. But if I also am not understanding that gyms exist, then I'm out of the game completely. And I think some people sometimes in this industry start feeling limited because they're like, well, I'll write up an offer. I'm like, writing up an offer is something that a robot can do, y'all. That is not where our value shows up as an agent, right? And when people are like, well, AI can take over the space. I mean, maybe, by the way, not tomorrow for sure. So chill out.
Hmm.
But certainly between now and 20 years from now, whenever that were to take place. And by the way, if that's happening, everybody's been replaced by everything. So who knows what we'll all be doing? We'll all be just painting for a living, I think. But what's
An
interesting
elephant
is
paints better than me. So
like finger painting, to come out of our lunacy. But the reality is, look, your job is to know what the options are for your clients. Did you guys hear some options presented today? Right? Humongously from everyone who talked, and it was incredible. Hey, Joe.
I gotta say one more, just on the options, but
I
it's
love it.
conveying them as well, right? I just literally had a
right.
client text me during this thing saying, I'm just so nervous. It's a big decision. I don't want to end up squandering my inheritance and everything else like that with this purchase. And I messaged back, there's a better chance of squandering your inheritance if you don't buy a home than if you are. And then I took a picture of the Zoom we're on right now that you probably can't see. And but it has you guys' picture on there. And it says, and I sent it over and I said, I'm on a Zoom right now. And a topic that came up was the market opportunity we're in right now for buyers that could be lost if the market starts to change. And that we're highly advising people take advantage of the market right this minute. And so I literally took a picture, sent it back over there. It's just, again, continually, what can I do to reinforce? What can I do to reinforce? Now she's going to sit there and go, dude, they're literally having a Zoom call right now talking about my situation. And you think that reinforces it? I think it reinforces it. So, anyway, just one more tip to always be going, what can I do? It's not to sell them. It's like, what can I do to convey the urgency to them?
Nice. Yeah, really, really
Yeah.
great stuff there, Christine.
Yeah. The urgency, and then also knowing how to assist them with the direction of where they're going in their real estate path. Right. So there's an urgency picture of it. And then there's have you learned enough about your client? Yes, you conveyed now the value of who you are and why to work with me. Now, are you learning enough about them to understand where they're at, where they want to be, and then how do you help them get there? And do you have the resources and the knowledge to make that happen? Do you need somebody else in that picture with you? Or did you learn enough that you're able to now convey what you learned into that conversation where you became, absolutely, I'm the perfect one for you. I know exactly what we're doing and where we're heading. I can do that with you. There's not always this piece that you're missing either. So once you've learned enough, you should be confident enough to say, I'm good, but don't stop learning and don't stop growing and don't start being open-minded, and always look to level yourself up. Obviously, like Jeff has mentioned, the AI thing, everything, and everybody has different ages on here. So, I'm from the pager days and fax machines. So that was, in 94 when I first started my career. And that's how I got reached by somebody paging me and me having to get to a phone. So, and faxing something over. And that was very relevant at the time to fax people. So things are always changing. You have to keep up with the change. You have to be relevant. You have to know how you can help your client and utilize tools like AI to help your client. That's a whole nother topic, I believe, that's coming in Core 90. So make sure that you're watching on our Core 90 here forward. We have a lot of great sessions that are coming out over the next few months. The AI definitely has a lot of different tools that you can use to keep up with your buyers, let alone your sellers and your business. So that's fun too.
I love it. Well, and I love that you're giving shout outs to all the future leaders who will be on here as well. Christine,
Yes.
Incredible stuff today, as always. And by the way, if any of you guys have a referral, Albany, Oregon, the kind of Mid-Willamette, that whole region, Christine and her team are there ready to help you. And if you need a great coach or if you want to partner with somebody here, give her a shout. She'll at least drive you and direct you in the right direction. Awesome stuff today. Very, very cool. And appreciate all of you. Thanks for being the best part of the community. We love you guys. Can't wait to keep building this thing strong. And let's go out there. Let's work with some buyers and have a great week. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for showing up.
Woohoo!
Have a great day.